Hey everybody, Eric Grenier here. Welcome to this episode of The Numbers. I'm joined, as always, by Philippe J. Fournier, who was recently in Ottawa for
Yes, I was.
some events.
I visited the bubble to go to the press gallery dinner. The fine people at Politico invited me. I participate occasionally on their playbook newsletter, and they invited me. And so I went to wine and dine with Ottawa's finest. And and okay people too, and it was fun.
We joked a couple of weeks ago about being the Laurentian elite, but I mean, clearly you must be.
Well, they want me in, that's for sure. I mean,
yes.
I mean, I'm still an outsider because they go, where are you from? In Montreal. Like Montreal's maybe a big deal in Quebec. In Ottawa, it's like, yeah, it's just another liberal city. But it was fun. The MCs were good. Obviously, the evening started on the wrong foot because of what happened in the Middle East, like literally 45 minutes before the dinner, so the Prime Minister could not stay and tell the jokes. And it's funny because at some point I crossed paths outside. They were smoking a cigarette, but the speechwriters of the Prime Minister were just like, 2 years in a row with this bull crap. Like, last year he had to leave for the Ukraine in the same morning, so they spent weeks writing jokes, and the speech is supposed to be funny, and it's like a what do you call it, a roast?
A roast.
Right? It's not that mean usually, but it's still, yeah. So every politician and many news organization is mocked. But yeah, you had to leave and you couldn't stay. So it was a fun night, yeah. And of course, the dance floor. I don't dance anymore. I'm in my 40s, so I don't go to clubs and dance. But at the very end, Nick Taylor-Vasey, who hosted the night with Catherine Lévesque of the National Post, Nick Taylor-Vasey of Politico said, "Okay, so we're gonna have to clear this part of the room to make room for the dance floor. So many of you are going to lose their seats. I just want to warn you, many of you are going to lose their seats." And I have to say, I guffawed. I laughed so hard at this stupid dad joke. But kudos to Nick Taylor-Vasey. He's the best.
Yeah, okay. How are the other speeches? I'm guessing Pierre Poilievre didn't go.
No. He doesn't. They don't like to hang out.
Harper went to the first one, I think.
Yeah.
The first couple ones. He didn't go, I don't think, while he was Prime Minister. Andrew Scheer did go in when he was there.
Once, right?
Because I was a member of the gallery at the time, so I was at the dinner. So he did one or two. I think O'Toole's, when he was there, it was the pandemic, so it was canceled. So I don't think he ever got a shot.
O'Toole was there last year.
Trudeau's speeches were always pretty good. But he was there last year?
But he didn't speak, but he was there. He was in a crowd.
Okay. Yeah. Trudeau's was always, his were always pretty good. His speeches were always pretty funny. Singh's, I never found Singh's speeches to be that terrific.
Singh,
and Blanchette, Blanchette, I never saw Blanchette because, again, I think I remember Martine Ouellette once went.
Oh my God.
And let me just tell you, that went down like a lead balloon. Boy, was that not a good speech. Oh, there wasn't a single laugh. It was all awkward silences after every kind of comment she made. Wasn't good.
I can't imagine. The thing is, to participate in those, and you have to be able to, self-deprecation, I think you say in English. You have to be ready to laugh at other people and be laughed at. And when you're humorless, like Martin Ouellette was, it's not going to work. Singh has a good few zingers. It's just he doesn't have the delivery. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, but to be a stand-up comedian and to have the jokes were okay, but the delivery was awful. But he's doing his best. Blanchet last year most of the jokes that Blanchet did this year was about how bad he was last year. Last year, they introduced a time limit for leaders because of Blanchet went for like 25 minutes last year, all in French. All in French, not a single laugh. And at some point, you saw Blanchet on stage last year just being more and more like, not aggressive, but just impatient because the crowd wasn't reacting. It's like, yeah. And this year, he went short and he spoke English and he made fun of the fact that he spoke English. He said, "I'm going to be Canadian for one night." So it was kind of cute. But the best one was the shortest one. Elizabeth May was there for, I think it was 3 minutes on stage, and it was really, really funny. So kudos to Elizabeth May because she was the funniest of the gang.
All right.
Anyway,
it's difficult to be funny and not, people think it's a lot easier
Oh, yeah.
Including us. We think it's easier than it actually is. Okay, so that was the gallery dinner.
I can't imagine Martin Ouellet at the gallery dinner. Oh, my God. That must have been awful. Oh,
it was awkward. Okay. It was uncomfortable. Speaking of uncomfortable.
There you go.
The NDP has not necessarily said they will vote for the federal budget, at least as of Thursday morning when we're recording this. We've already heard the budget came out on Tuesday. We already knew most of what was in the budget. There was a couple few little surprises in it that came out on Tuesday. Conservatives, of course, want to vote against. The Bloc Québécois has already said they're going to vote against too many entanglements in Quebec jurisdiction.
Yeah.
The Greens have said they're not going to vote for it, which is a bit of a surprise. And the NDP says, Jagmeet Singh would say, not a decision they were going to make on budget day. They are still holding off, though he is tweeting some of the great stuff that's in the budget that came about thanks to the NDP, which makes me think he's probably going to continue voting for it. But what do you think of this dance that the NDP is doing?
Well, we just mentioned the press gallery dinner. One of the things that Singh said when he was on stage was, I'm not sure if I'm going to vote for the budget, at least the parts I didn't write, so, which I thought was kind of clever. But, I mean, he has an offsuit 2 and 7, and he wants to make believe that he's going to go all in. So come on. I mean, it's okay to not react at the same moment. It's true that you want to consult the whole budget and consult your team, and that this is all good and fine. But from a purely political point of view, come on. We know this is a bluff. So don't make us wait too long. And if you make the government fall, please do it before next Tuesday so we can keep the 338 map. But aside from that, it's interesting that there's new spending in there, new measures. I think some of them are good ideas. We'll see if it works, because that's the big thing. The Liberals are good at promising. Executing is another thing. The capital gains tax raise. I'm not an expert on economy, so I won't pretend to be, but this usually is good politics. Yeah, those who have a lot of money and make a lot of money from investments, yeah, they should pay a little more taxes. I think many Canadians agree with that. They always agree that tax should be increased on people that are not them, right?
Yes. The most popular tax is the tax that's on someone else. That's
right. That's why the carbon tax is so popular in Quebec. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that strategy makes sense, because the NDP really is not in a position to make more demands or to threat that the government will fall this week. They will not gain anything from that. At least I don't think so. The numbers don't indicate that. So what do you think?
Well, that's actually what I want to do. I want to do a little bit of an exercise with you. So let's imagine that the NDP has lost their mind and decided that they're going to ask us what they should do for the election. All right? They've hired us. We're doing it for millions of dollars. So the NDP will be broke after their conversation with us. But we're going to go in. We're sitting down with Jagmeet Singh. One of us has to make the case for calling an election. One of us has to make a case for supporting the budget and not calling an election. I will let you, because I've already had time to think about it, because I already knew I wanted to do this. You will make the case to Jagmeet Singh that he should support the budget and avoid an election. What would that case be?
Okay, Mr. Singh, listen. Many of your MPs are in BC. The numbers don't look good in BC, including for you in Vancouver. If you want to remain a party leader and have something to show for it, vote for the budget. Because if that budget goes down, all the measures that you think are so great that you said you wrote part of the budget, they're going to go down and never be back again, because we're going to have a decade of conservative rule. So think about this. And also, if you really don't listen to me, just prepare a leadership race right away, because that's going to be end of you. Hey, you didn't let me prepare for this. You surprised me with your ideas. What would you say?
Well, I would say, okay, look, Philippe clearly didn't prepare. I'm here, and I'm going to give you the straight goods.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Now, Philippe will make the case, as I'm sure he can right now, that If the NDP went to an election campaign, they'd lose a lot of seats. Right, Philippe?
They'd lose some at least, but they would not gain anything, yes.
Okay. But you know what? The polls are the polls, and there's a whole campaign that has to happen. There's a couple of reasons that the NDP could consider going to an election campaign. Now, you can take notes and you can rebut me at the end of it.
Okay.
One would be that, well, you're going to have to go to an election at some point. Will it be better for the New Democrats to wait until next year to go to an election if things aren't going to get any better, if there's not really any reason to believe that they will get better? There will be another budget that will have to be voted on in the spring 2025. The NDP could decide at that point to vote against it and call an election at that point, but I'm not sure they'd get much credit for it because everybody would know that the election's coming anyway. So it's the NDP drawing a line in the sand that they know the waves are going to come and take away right away. Anyway, so why not stand on principle right now? Be like, you know what? Not enough here. Let's go to the election because next year it's not necessarily going to get any better. You look at the provincial situation. There's a BC election later this year. So you don't want to risk having an election in the fall. But also, if you have an election next year, next fall, maybe David Eby is a bit less popular in British Columbia, and the NDP is going to take a hit in the province. So maybe you want to get ahead of that while the BC NDP is pretty popular and try to ride on some of those coattails, maybe even use some of their resources that they're getting in place for the campaign in the fall. And you know what? Justin Trudeau's unpopular. The NDP could pick up support during the campaign. Jagmeet Singh, likable guy. You're a likable guy, Jagmeet Singh, because I just forgot we were sitting in the office with him. We know that you can deliver during a campaign. You've done it before. You saved the party from destruction back in 2019 after leading the party to near destruction just before that campaign. But there is the chance, with Justin Trudeau being unpopular, Pierre Poilievre polling well right now, but who knows after a campaign, maybe people will feel that they don't like him that much. And if they don't like him and they're tired of Trudeau, well, they like you. So maybe you'll be able to pick up some support. Hold what you got in BC, Northern Ontario, Southwestern Ontario. Maybe pick up a few Liberal seats in Toronto, maybe win Edmonton Centre, maybe win Halifax, St. John's, end up with 30 seats. Conservatives are in a minority position and we can still have some influence. So why not go now, Jagmeet? Why not go now?
Oh, okay. Eric Grenier's PR firm, send your millions, and you will lose those millions, but you probably can expense them. That's awful, Eric. I mean, I would never hire you as a consultant because, come on. But that's funny. The NDP provincial in BC is a good point. Monsieur Eby, the numbers that we have, I know a lot of people, conservatives, don't like him. But if we look at the numbers, province-wide, Monsieur Eby is still quite popular. He's one amongst the most popular in the country, premiers, at least in the latest Angus Reid report card. And that could wear off quickly, as we saw with François Legault. I mean, a year after an election, people, what have you done for me lately, right? But, I mean, you want to just destroy what you've built with the Liberals, even though it's not going well right now. At least you got the dental care and all these things that were added because the NDP pressed the Liberals. Well, this budget contains a lot of that, and it would be gone forever if they go into an election. Monsieur Singh, I mean, what are you talking about when you said Monsieur Singh saved the NDP? When was that? Did I miss that?
If you remember, at the beginning of 2019, in the summer of 2019, the NDP, people were openly discussing whether they'd get official party status. They were polling so badly. They were at 10, 12. There was a couple polls that had the Greens within a point or two of them. And in the end, the NDP had a better campaign than expected. Singh did okay in the 2019 debate. Elizabeth May largely lost a lot of support at the beginning of the campaign, talking about abortion, things like that. And the NDP ended up with 25 seats or 24 seats 24. In 2019. 24. And that was seen as hey, we were talking about maybe 10 when this campaign began. So when the expectations get dropped really low, it's really easy to surpass them. And that's what happened in that campaign. And I think that's one of the reasons why Singh was able to stay on as leader. If he had led the party to 10 seats, he would have been gone in 2019.
Of course.
Obviously.
But he took the party at 44 seats and he dropped them 24.
Details. Don't listen to him, Jagmeet. I'll take his share of pay here for this advice because clearly, I'm not sure if I believe what I was saying. I was just making the case.
Of course, send your millions to Eric Grenier's The Rit consulting firm.
Yeah.
But I will wait.
But one thing I do have a question on is, will it be any better next year? Does it make a difference?
We don't know. We don't know.
There's just that maybe things could get better. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah. What else is there? I mean, the thing is, they have the benefit of time. And if you and I were, I mean, we'll do an over-under at some point in Christmas. I don't think it's going to get much better. But if you go in now, it's a sure loss. If you go next year, it's maybe a loss. I'm just going with the odds, man. I see no indication, and I've seen nothing from Jagmeet Singh that he's that great of a campaigner, and that his party can sustain a blue wave of conservative support, especially in places. I mean, you said a couple of seats in Toronto. Okay, maybe Halifax. Perhaps if the Liberals have a bad campaign, they can pick up Laurier-Sainte-Marie in downtown Montreal. But they will lose half their caucus in BC, maybe more. I don't know, man.
That's the issue. I think holding the seats is the hard part.
And what do you do if you have 18 seats and the Conservatives have 200? You're just collecting paychecks and having press conference saying, "Oh, Conservatives are so bad" for 4 years. You have a year and a half to do something, and basically you make the case. Well, I know you were playing, but you make the case that we should go now. No, you shouldn't. You really, really shouldn't. But it's okay. We'll see. Again, the NDP has a 2 and a 7 offsuit, and you go like, well, I like my cards. So I don't know.
Hey, well, they don't know what's going to come on the turn, right? So we'll see.
We had some provincial stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Did you want to go into there?
I do.
So
there was
Newfoundland and Labrador had a by-election in Fogo Island, Cape Friels. Is that what you say? Cape Friels?
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels like it should be Cape Fields because that would be like. I feel like we're often there. We often spend time on Cape Fields. But Fogo Island, Cape Friels. This is a riding in sort of the northern part of the main part of Newfoundland. Fogo Island, probably heard of with the Fogo Island Inn, where Barack Obama has gone. Have you ever heard of the Fogo Island Inn?
No.
You're looking at me. Oh, it's like this really well-known high-end hotel where it costs like thousands of dollars a night. Barack Obama has gone there. I think Hillary Clinton has gone there. It's right on the coast, and it looks beautiful.
Let me make a booking.
It's on Fogo Island.
We're
gonna book it. We're gonna have a special event.
So if we go this weekend, let's say we go from Friday to Monday, long weekend. How much would it cost? The Fogo. Oh, that looks beautiful though.
It is beautiful. Yeah.
It's okay. Let's see. But yeah. So it's
off season.
So what?
Anyway.
So what happened?
So Derek Bragg was the Liberal MHA. He was first elected there in 2015. He passed away earlier this year. He was a young man. He died of cancer, so this is very sad. But he had won by a big margin the last election.
Yeah.
This was thought as a very winnable seat for the Liberals. They had just come off a by-election victory in January in a PC seat, so there was a thought that they could replicate that. But no, Jim McKenna of the PCs won with 58% of the vote. His vote went up 21 points. The Liberal vote dropped 22 points to 39%. The NDP had 3%. They don't have much support in that area. But this is a big swing, a big 40-plus point swing between the two parties. And there was lots of discussion, speculation that Andrew Furey would call an election this year because next year, Newfoundland and Labrador's election scheduled for November, so a month after the federal election, which is probably a bad time to be a Liberal premier going to the polls. But now with this by-election defeat, do they kind of have to pump the brakes on an election call? It's just a small by-election in a riding with only a few thousand voters, but it could end up having an impact on the whole province's election timeline.
The thing is, what struck me more is that except for hyperlocal news and hyperlocal effects, there was no way to predict that. right? I mean, if you're on the spot, people would say, well, it's obvious. I spoke to people here. We were angry at the Liberals. Yeah, but that's my point, is that except if you're on the spot speaking to voters, there was absolutely no data indicating that such a swing was possible. And
I did hear from one journalist there that there was expectation that it would be close. This was not close.
No, well, the thing is, during the count, it was kind of close, but at the end, I guess the final ballot boxes were really good for the PC candidate. But yeah, so it wasn't even close. What does that say about next year's election, do you think? Or does that say anything? Is it just a hyper-local effect?
Well, there's a couple of things that could be really interesting here. One is that are we seeing in more rural kind of areas that they're moving more to the Conservatives like they are federally? Because traditionally the Liberals have often done pretty well in the outports and that kind of area. But is that changing where the Liberals are going to become more of a St. John's and St. John's region party, which was traditionally, again, what the PCs were, which is kind of a reversal of things. But yeah, whether we're going to see any movement in the polls, because the last poll we saw was in like February, and there's been lots of discontent out in Newfoundland and Labrador related to the fishing industry. There was protests there outside the legislature that delayed the budget for a couple of days. Yeah. And I looked at the stats in a riding like Fogo Island, Cape Frills, a significant portion of the population works in the fishing industry, right? So this was an issue that galvanized people there. Will it galvanize people, in St. John's, Corner Brook? I don't know. But I'm curious to see if the next set of polls shows that this could have been predicted. Or if we see, again, the same kind of numbers we've seen for the last few months where it's just a 5-10 point lead for the Liberals.
Yeah, like 42-36 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Fogo Island Inn, I was listening to you, but I Googled it.
Okay.
In May, what they call, they choose a season. So March 1st to 21st is called Pack Ice. Spring is April 1st to May 15th. Then Trap Birth. So the second half of May, when my semester at the college ends.
Okay, we're going.
It is for the family suite.
Ooh.
It is $5,000 per night, and of course you have to get there too, which doesn't look that easy. But I guess if you spend $5,000 a night for a room, I mean it's beautiful, but the room is, there's a chair,
if we record a podcast episode there, we could probably expense it. So anyway,
one night. And we split. The thing is, it looks, the setting is amazing. It's beautiful, but the rooms are just ordinary. The tapestry is flowers. It just looks like a hotel room. It's just that the setting is so amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I'll think about it.
Okay. All right. Join the Patreon, please. Let's move to British Columbia. Just because there was a poll that came out from Liaison Strategies, which is a newish polling firm. It had a 4-point lead for the BC New Democrats over the BC Conservatives, so this is provincial. BCU was at 16%, the Greens at 11%. I don't want to spend too much time on this individual poll, but you wrote about it on your site. We're seeing some big differences now in terms of what the portrait is in BC, because there was in March, and this poll was done, I think it was done at the beginning of April, but in March, April, we've had two online polls that give the NDP a lead of 17 to 21 points over the Conservatives. Yep. And we've had two IVR polls that have had a lead of 4 to 6 points. That's a big difference.
It's mode. It is mode, and we wonder. There are other IVR polling firms in this country, so, we have a sample of 2. But the thing is, it seems like a big coincidence that the 2 IVRs see a close race and the 2 online firms, which, the Young Street Institute and Léger are pretty established, right?
They've been around.
They've been around, and they were, I think, I'm gonna have to, but I remember Léger did really well in the previous BC election. But the thing is, we have a realignment. This is what makes it so hard for pollsters. Like when you have an online poll, you can show your respondents a leader's face, a party logo, colors, and so you see it's the BC Liberals. The BC Liberals have changed for the United. Okay, the BC Conservatives are not the Poilievre Conservatives. Whereas IVR, you hear it on the phone and you have to press the button, right? I'm not saying IVR is all bad, but there may be a big difference because there's brand confusion. But obviously, this is a hypothesis. We don't know that yet. But if a third or fourth IVR firms has the same thing, and then we have another online firm, I mean, if the evidence adds up, at some point we have to point to mode. And what do we do?
Then we're lost.
If I make a projection, I'm going to probably have it somewhere in the middle. I mean, I'm going to be closer to Léger than I am to Liaison, obviously, for their ratings. But it's very confusing because even though the numbers... I mean, Léger had the Conservatives at 26 and Liaison at 34. It's too far, but could they be at 31 or 29? Yeah, that's okay. It's just that in our system, there's a world of difference. Because with that poll, if the Conservatives are at 34 and strong in the interior and strong also in the greater Vancouver area, right? And the Uniteds are at 16, it's the end of the Uniteds. We won't see them again. They will vanish. They won't have any seat, or maybe one, and they don't recover. If they go down to a single or two seats and they have a brand that no one knows, it's over. So it is frustrating, but I can't blame the pollsters on this one because it is confusing for people who don't follow politics from day to day. With the realignment, so but
there's also the extra. There's an extra little complicating factor I find is that when you see BC Conservative support in the online as well as on the IVR, is that unlike other Conservative parties, they're more popular among younger voters. Yeah, it's generally younger voters, more BC Conservative, older voters, more BC United, but also more BC NDP. That has two impacts. One being that Conservatives might have a harder time getting their vote out, so matching their polls might be complicated. But also, reaching young people is not very easy to do, and I think you're much more likely to make errors amplifying, smaller sample of respondents among younger voters than you would among people over the age of 50, right? So, I'm starting to get a bit worried about BC. As I'm getting flashbacks to 2013, which we'll get to in the mailbag.
We'll get to that, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the mailbag right now. We are going to start doing something a little bit different because our episodes are kind of long, and I some people might not really want to listen to us for over an hour. We are going to try to shorten the mailbag by answering one or two questions in our public episodes, and then we'll answer the rest of the questions that we get from our Patreon members and put those up for the Patreon members. So our Patreon episodes will be a bit longer because they'll include more of the questions that we're going to answer in the mailbag, and we'll answer one or two good questions for the public. Keep the episodes a little bit short and move things along, but also thank our members for supporting us by answering more of their questions. So we had a question from Feb914. So I thought this was a really good one. So this was on the Discord. He said, in the U.S. Senate, Joe Manchin, who's a Democrat, is not running again, and this makes his seat in West Virginia a Republican lock. Everybody knows this seat is going to go to the Republicans. And the question was, is there a similar case in Canada, a longtime MP not running again? And if they don't run again, that would guarantee that another party would win the seat. They brought up the example of Elizabeth May, which actually I think would be more of a toss-up seat, because the NDP, the Conservatives, the Greens could all win that. But do you have any thoughts about what kind of seats exist in the country right now where it's largely because of the MP that they're with a party? They would otherwise go with a different party.
The first that I thought of was the riding I live in. Rosemont, la petite patrie. I mean, many people here did not vote for the NDP. They voted for Alexandre Boulris. And when Alexandre Boulris calls it quits, we don't know when that would be. I'm pretty sure both the Bloc Québécois and the Liberals would go for it, and it would be, I would say it would be a lock for one of the two, but the NDP, I don't think, will survive that. It's the last standing bastion in Quebec for the NDP, literally. But did you have others that are obvious to you that if the current MP leaves, the party will not gain it again?
There was a few that I thought of. One of them I was thinking, because of the Joe Manchin kind of example, because he's been there for a long time, was Lawrence Macaulay in Cardigan in Prince Edward Island. So He's been there since 1988.
Wow.
So aside from Louis Plamondon, I think he's the dean. Plamondon would still be the dean. He was first elected in 1984. But Macaulay's been in Cardigan since 1988, been a safe Liberal seat ever since. I'm not sure. I don't think there's any, we know if he's running again in the next election. He certainly does not say he's not. But this kind of seat is one where I think that if Macaulay wasn't running, it could swing over to the Conservatives. This part of a PI is where the PCs do best provincially.
Yeah.
So it should be more of a Conservative riding. So I think that might be one where if Lawrence Macaulay stepped aside, that one could flip. There's the one that I think is the most interesting one might be Etobicoke North, Kirsty Duncan. She wins that seat with 60+% of the vote. It's any projections that you do, that I do, anybody else does, it always remains red because it would require too much of a swing to lose.
Yeah.
But this is Doug Ford's seat. And he won it with like 55% in the last election. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's Kirsty Duncan or not, but that seems like a seat that shouldn't be such a Liberal lock. And it makes me wonder if she did not run again, she's been having health issues, so that would be a reasonable thing for her to do. Does that suddenly become an easy pickup for the Conservatives? Easier than it would be otherwise.
That's interesting. Maybe I would. I mean, I know I'm Montreal-centric here, but I wonder if Monsieur Guilbeault, Environment Minister, if he left, would that seat remain Liberal? Because it was the long-time seat of Gilles Duceppe, then it flipped to the NDP. And the NDP has been competitive. And I mean, Guilbeault won the last two, but the NDP has been competitive. Would that section of Montreal that votes for Quebec Solidaire wall-to-wall, would they stick to the Liberals if it wasn't for Monsieur Guilbeault or for somebody well-known? So I don't know. This is a good example. It's a good question. I don't know MPs that much. I know ridings. I don't know MPs. So.
Well, the thing is, I don't think there are that many MPs who are that important on their own, with all due respect to them, that they alone would be responsible for a 20-point bump. So that's where I think the difference is in our systems, right? And also when you're voting on a statewide level rather than an individual level, that might have more of an impact. Anyway, it was a good question. So we're going to move on to the quiz for people who are listening to the public episode. And if you're a Patreon member, we're going to get right into rest of the mailbag. Okay, time for the quiz.
Okay, you're quizzing me this week.
Yes.
What is it? I'm ready.
Okay. As you know, I like thematic quizzes. So
yes, I do.
I was thinking, what's happening? What's happening? I was like, you know what? There's 3 elections this year, all in October. They're scheduled to happen all in October. British Columbia, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick all have their scheduled election dates in October. So what about past times when there was many elections scrunched together in a month? Now, I'm not going to quiz you on specific things. I have different angles on all of these questions. I have 8 questions with 2 bonuses. Okay. So you have a chance for 10 points.
Okay.
And I'm going to set the line. You need to get 6 points to get a bronze, 7 points for a silver, 8 for a gold. So you have some chances for some error.
Okay.
So it's more or less just kind of trivia. So I'm going to say things and then I'll ask you a question. Are you ready?
Is it true or false or multiple choice or just open-ended? Or all of them?
Man, some of these.
Okay,
some of
I'm listening.
There's no consistent format. All right.
No Googling. All right.
I found all the cases where there was at least 3 elections in a month. And there was less than I thought there would be. Okay. So in October 2011, there were 6 elections that took place in a month. So on October 3rd, there was an election in PEI in the Northwest Territories. In October 4th, there was an election in Manitoba. In October 6th, there was one in Ontario.
That's insane.
On
Really?
October 11th, Newfoundland and Labrador and Yukon. So 6 provinces and territories. Can you name 3 of the premiers who won those elections?
That's insane. Okay, so the 2 territories, I have no idea. I'm sorry. So you said PEI, Manitoba,
Ontario, and Newfoundland and Labrador.
Newfoundland and Labrador. Ontario, I can. It was the last victory of Mr. McGuinty.
That's correct.
PEI was that guy that looks like this. Okay, I'll be back. I should know Manitoba. Was it was before the return of the PC, so it was NDP. I'm going to say something. Is it Salinger in NDP?
It was Greg Salinger.
Salinger, yeah.
So you got 2.
What's the threshold here? How many do I have to get?
I want 3.
You want 3, huh? Newfoundland. Was Danny Williams still there? I know he was there in 2008. I feel like he was gone by then. I can't PI. I'm sorry, Islanders. Was it the Liberal? It was the Liberal, huh? Who replaced Danny Williams? I'm so bad at this. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say Danny Williams, but it's not. I know it's not wrong. I know it's wrong.
It was not Danny Williams.
Okay, PEI. I'm gonna say it was McLellan was defeated, but he was not there that long. When did the King win the PEI? Was it 2019? It was 2019. I'm gonna say it was McLellan.
No, it was Robert Giz.
Giz, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it was Kathy Dunderdale, who was Newfoundland and Labrador.
That was a PC?
So you don't get a point for that.
That was the PC? Kathleen?
Yeah.
Okay.
My bonus question was assuming you got 3, which was whether you could name a single one more, which I don't think you can get.
No,
so,
I guess. Sorry.
All right. So Daryl Pazlowski and Bob McLeod were the premiers in the territories. So, okay. Now you got to. You can still get gold. You just need to run the table. Yeah. All right. In October 2007, there were 3 elections. October 1st, there was one in Northwest Territories. October 9th, Newfoundland and Labrador. October 10th, in Ontario. 4 other provinces held elections in 2007. Can you name at least 3 of them?
Okay, so go back. You went too fast. Newfoundland, Labrador, Ontario. What was the other one in 07?
And the Northwest Territories, but I'm just looking at provinces.
Okay. So 4 other provinces had
an election in 2007.
Okay, so Quebec had an election.
That's correct, in March.
Manitoba had an election.
Yes, in May.
I mean, BC, did they go early in BC? 2007? The timing's wrong. I'm going to say BC. BC was not among them. Do I get strikes, or that's it? I lost.
I'll give you 1 strike. I'll give you 1 strike. There's not that many provinces.
Well, that's true. That's not too many provinces. Oh, hang on. Alberta. Alberta had an election. No.
No, they had one in 2008.
Damn it. Okay.
The other 2 provinces were Prince Edward Island and Saskatchewan. PI was in the previous one anyway. Okay, you can still win a silver. You can still win a silver. See, that I wasn't sure if you'd like this or not. And it turned
no, it's funny. It's just I think this is stuff I should know. I should have pulled my I don't cheat. That's the thing. I think I have a sheet with all the premiums and stuff, but I don't cheat.
Okay. In October 1991, there were 3 elections.
91. Okay.
There was one in Northwest Territories, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan. All right. Northwest Territories, of course, it's nonpartisan. But the same party won the other 2 elections, defeating the incumbent government in British Columbia and Saskatchewan in 1991. What party was that?
Well, in Saskatchewan, I remember in a referendum it was Romano, or I said Romanov, and that was the NDP, so I'm going to say the NDP.
It was the NDP. It was Mike Harcourt won the election in British Columbia and Roy Romano in Saskatchewan. Okay, you got yourself 1 point.
I'm on the board.
You're on the board. Okay, now we're going back, and I because we're going back, because there wasn't actually 1991, and then there's a big gap. I'm not quizzing you exactly on what happened in these elections, but anyway, in October 1967,
67. Okay,
there was 3 elections in Saskatchewan, Ontario, and New Brunswick. True or false? The incumbent government was reelected in all 3.
60, as you said, Ontario, New Brunswick,
and Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan. Okay, in Ontario, the answer is yes. It was the PC dynasty. In New Brunswick, we went over this. In New Brunswick, the guy of the potato chips. I think he won in 70, so it wasn't there yet. So I'm guessing 67 would be the incumbent. That would be true. And Saskatchewan, I don't know about Saskatchewan. So 2 out of 3, I would say true. Saskatchewan, Tommy Douglas wasn't there anymore. The NDP did well, though. Okay, I'm going to say true.
True is correct. John Robarts was reelected in Ontario as PC. Louis Robichaud, a Liberal in New Brunswick. And Ross Thatcher, a Liberal in Saskatchewan. So you got 2 correct answers. All right, going back further. June 1960, 4 elections in Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, Quebec, and New Brunswick. All right, okay. Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, Quebec, New Brunswick. The Provincial Liberal Party won 2 of these elections. Which ones were they?
Okay. Quebec was one of them.
Yes. Jean Lesage.
Now, I think I learn most of this stuff because I do quizzes for you. And we discussed this not that long ago. The Nova Scotia, it was the big dynasty that followed. Yeah. The thing is, you just said the Liberals in Saskatchewan. Was it 1960? Was that after Tommy Douglas? Tommy Douglas won 5 elections, right? He started in the 40s. So I'm going to say Quebec and New Brunswick.
That is correct. To Jean Lesage and Louis Robichaud, again in New Brunswick. It was Robert Stanfield of the PCs who won in Nova Scotia, and Tommy Douglas, his last election as CCF leader in 1960. Okay.
When did the CCF become the NDP? It's in this decade, right?
61.
61. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
1960 or 1961. June 1956, there were 3 elections in New Brunswick, Saskatchewan, and Quebec. Saskatchewan and Quebec had them on the same date, on June 20th.
Is that so? Oh.
Yeah. Who was the Prime Minister in June 1956?
The Prime Minister of Canada was... is that a trick question? Because that seems easy. What are you doing here? Hang on. Diefenbaker won in 57, didn't he? So it would be Louis Saint Laurent?
Yes, it was Louis Saint Laurent. It was Louis Saint Laurent.
You're throwing me those softballs.
I know. You're trying to... All right.
Oh, don't play the quiz. Don't play the quiz master.
That's right. All right. June 1949. June 1949. There was 3 elections in Nova Scotia, British Columbia, and federally, which was the first one we've mentioned.
Yep.
Which party won the 1949 federal election? And again, who was the Prime Minister at the time?
The federal one. Well,
Yep.
It was the Liberals.
Hmm?
It was the Liberals. Saint Laurent. It was the beginning of Saint Laurent, wasn't it? Hang on. Saint Laurent was still there in 49. It was there in 49. He replaced... Yeah, I'm going to say it's the Saint Laurent Liberals. It's not?
That's correct. It was the
God damn it.
I always wonder if I'm going to catch it. Okay. So you can still win a silver. There's 2 points in this last question.
I have 6 points, right? Or I have 5? I have 5.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm missing.
There's 2 questions in this last one. It's a 2-parter. All right. You're going to have to write this down.
I'm writing this down. Go ahead.
These are all the other times where there was multiple elections in a month. Okay? June 1948, October 1945, August 1944, June 1890, June 1882, and of course the first elections, September 1867. You got them?
I think so.
How many different prime ministers were there on all of these dates?
Did you give me 6 because I written 5 down? I think I missed one. So June 48.
June 1948, October 1945,
August 44.
August 1944, June 1890, June 1882, and September 1867.
1882. How many different prime ministers? Is that the question?
Yep.
Okay. Well, there's John A. A few times. 44, 45, 48. So I'm pretty sure that Saint Laurent arrived in 49 as leader. So 44, 45, 48 would be the same. It would be king. Now, going back, 67 was John A. I know he in 1990. 82. How long was he prime minister? So the answer is 2 or 3. And now I look at your face. If I say 2, if I say there's like maybe Charles Tupper in there because you want to trick me. I'm going to say 3.
It was just 2.
It was John A. and King.
2. And this bonus question, though, was whether you could name them.
John A. MacDonald, and Mackenzie King. So.
That is correct.
So I get the bronze.
MacDonald and Mackenzie King. So you get 6 points. You get a bronze medal. You're on the podium.
I'm on the
podium. I think I set the line well.
And you know the meme of the bronze guy with the champagne and he's okay. So that's me because I won something. Oh man, that was not easy. Really, huh? John A. Kept coming back 82.
Yeah. John A. Macdonald was the prime minister from 1867 to 1873, and then from 1878 to 1891.
Wow.
So he was there for all of those.
That's a pretty good question, though.
It is, yeah. And Louis Saint Laurent came in at the end of 1948. So that was sort of the trick question.
Just to go back, you said that Saskatchewan and Quebec had an election on the same day, right?
Yes.
That can't have happened too many times.
Not too many times, but there have been a few occasions where an election has taken place on the same day.
Really?
That would make for a fun live stream. We should have done the which election was it? We should have done the June 1956 election as a live stream. That would have been fun.
Well, we could. I mean, I'm sure the radio show from Radio-Canada or CBC is there somewhere. We could comment, live comment the election in the 40s, just to see how much we can nerd out without losing the entire audience. But
yeah, that's probably too much. Okay, well, congratulations. You at least got a bronze medal, 6 out of 10. And that was my thematic quiz.
That was pretty good, I must say.
All right, number of the week. What do you got?
Nanos on a regular basis, every week basically, they ask what is the most important national issue of concern, and there's nothing that really dominates. I mean, the highest is jobs economy with 13% this week. Inflation is at 12.5, so you could say it's tied. But the thing is, I would say that jobs, economy, inflation, and housing, cost of housing, should be all lumped together when you think about it. And together they take 35% of respondents. This is something that the Liberals do not control. They really don't control what's going on with the inflation, that the Bank of Canada deciding on interest rates. Housing, they acted a lot of housing right now, but if cities and provinces don't cooperate and fast, it's not going to change much. And so the Liberals are kind of in tough here because what matters most to Canadians is something that they don't really control. By the way, the next one is healthcare. And healthcare, as you know, is the provinces. So, it's not a good look right now for the Liberals. The context is bad, and you add that with some self-inflicted mistakes. So, yeah.
My number of the week is 56%. This was the turnout in the Fogo Island Cape Friels by-election, which was higher than the general election in 2021. You don't often see a by-election with higher turnout. And this suggests to me, this was largely the PCs adding about 1,500 votes to their total. This tells me this was people who were upset at the government going out to vote, which probably are not a good sign if you're an incumbent.
That's
if
true.
People are willing to go out to vote to defeat you. It's remarkable to see a by-election turnout as high as that and higher than in a general election. So good on the people of Fogo Island, Cape Friels for participating. And if you're Andrew Furey, you might want to take a break on any election.
Maybe they should call the Newfoundland and Labrador United and see how it goes.
Hey, that could work. Actually, I think I've seen that party name before. I wonder if that's
I think we should go do some local research at the Fogo Island Inn. You have $5,000 a night.
I think so. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what the carbon tax rebate is going to be.
There you go.
So yeah,
I don't have those. Thank you, Eric.
Well, thank you, Philippe, and thank you to everybody for listening and watching. As always, you can go to thenumberspod.ca to support us, to get these episodes early on Thursdays. And as I said, we'll have a few more mailbag question answers in our episodes, and we get the bonus episodes every 2 weeks. So that's thenumberspod.ca. Philippe, have a good week, and I'll talk to you in 7 days.
Absolutely. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you, everybody. Speak to you next week.